and welcome to another episode of Yale College Voices, where we delve into the captivating journeys of individuals who have made significant strides in their fields. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Darice Corey. I'm your host. And today we have the pleasure of welcoming a remarkable guest whose passion for theater production and prop making has left an indelible mark on the stage. So today I'm honored to have Aubrey Ellis, who is operations and production manager from the Yale College undergraduate production. So welcome, Aubrey.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to have you. As you know, we had several reschedulings and all sorts of things, and I'm just really happy that it all worked out and that you're here today.
Me too.
So I'm going to read the bio that you shared with me,
Sure.
And then we'll just jump right in.
Sounds great.
Okay, cool. So let's see. So Aubrey is originally from New York, where she received her bachelor's degree in theater from SUNY Oneonta, before earning her Master of Fine Arts in technical direction from the University of Connecticut. Aubrey started her career making props. So she has served as the props master for Capitol Repertory Theater, props master in scenic charge for the Fisher Center of Performing Arts at Bard College and the Bard Summerscape Festival. She's also been the adjunct professor for stagecraft and props design at the University of Connecticut, and most recently at the shop foreman and master carpenter for arts production at Wesleyan University. So that's so awesome. And you know, when you sent your bio over, I was like, why is it so short? Because so everyone knows that I Google my guests.
Okay.
And, I came across a site showing all of your awesome work in
my portfolio. Yeah.
Which is amazing. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about yourself, like where you're from and maybe what inspired your interest in this field.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I grew up in Syracuse, New York. That's where I've kind of been my whole life. My parents are there. And when I went to college at SUNY Oneonta, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Really? I think we joked I changed my major 7 times in 6 semesters.
Really?
I just couldn't. I wasn't finding my people, I think, that support network. And I was great. I wanted to do theater, but I was like, am I going to get a job in this? How do you have a career in this?
Yeah.
And I kind of fell into prop making, as one of my advisors was like, I think you would really like this. Really? And I delved right into it and
so cool.
Haven't stopped since. I did an apprenticeship in Philadelphia at the Walnut Street Theater. It's America's oldest theater.
Really? And
I got to do that for a year, got to work with some amazing people and learned a lot about the industry and myself and the kind of boundaries I wanted to set up as an individual in the industry. I don't know how much, we were chatting a little bit about production before we started.
Right.
The industry is rough sometimes, and it is really easy to get burnt out in it. And I wanted to be able to help other people who were young in their careers and kind of help them know how to set boundaries and how to write contracts and how to make sure you get paid and all of that stuff. And so I kind of fell into doing it in educational theater and trying to give a voice to the young people who are trying to break into the industry without killing themselves.
Right.
So
that's so awesome. Which is great that number one, that you mentioned you changed your major several times, but it's great that you still, some people get discouraged, right? If you don't really find what you like, and then they sort of just stick to one major and finish, but not really enjoy it. So it's pretty cool that you continued exploring, right?
Absolutely.
So that's so cool. And I was so curious. Once I saw your portfolio, I was like, I gotta ask. Now I have a million questions about prop making.
Sure, absolutely. Hit me with them.
So what was it that really just kind of, once your advisor said that, hey, maybe you might like it, what really drew you to thinking that, this is something I really love doing?
I think for me, I had I was a communications major. I was a political science major at one point. I went into political history at some point. And for props, the cool thing is that you're always researching about history and you're always learning about different cultures and getting to around the world in 80 days, they have an opium pipe in there. And it's like, we're not going to get a real opium pipe.
Right.
But how did they make opium pipes? Oh my gosh, they used bamboo sticks that they dried out and then they would cut off the ends of it. And it was like, I got to learn so much about how things were actually made and then get to like put that on a stage to make it safe for the actors and safe for the audience. And I guess like all of that together kind of culminated into this passion of it is like, it is always something new. Like you see Oklahoma done a million times, right? But every time you do it, it's going to be a little different. And I got like the privilege to do Daniel Fish's Oklahoma starting at the Fisher Center.
Oh, cool.
It's like, who knew that I was going to have to figure out how to order 42 crock pots without getting on the FBI watch list because they thought I was making a bomb, right? Like, these were fun things that, like, I've never had to do that for an Oklahoma before, and I'll never have to do it again. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, things that never come to mind.
Exactly.
Right? And how do you order? I mean, that's
what happened. That's exactly what happened. Really? Is that there was like, I ordered the crock pots thinking nothing of it. I was like, we're feeding the audience every show. We're going to have like I think it was a vegetarian chili we're serving every night. Just like it was like a Oklahoma like fair. Like everyone was sitting like communally together. And so that was the whole beautiful idea. But then I go to order them and there's this flags on the account and these people are contacting the college like, why are you ordering this many? Oh, I had no idea. Like, so yeah.
Okay. So you ended up learning, like, are there, I'm only thinking of food service and that kind of stuff. So like, did you have to go that route?
No, like, I think we ended up just explaining to them what we were trying to do. And they were like, okay, that's fine. Don't do that again.
Yeah, don't do that.
Or like, let us know ahead of time. I was like, okay, sure. You got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So, what, like during that time, was there a particular experience that just stands out in your mind, like that, you found really enjoyable aside from the crock pot?
Yeah, that is one of my that is one of my favorite stories. I think the most fun prop I've ever gotten to build was when I was at the Walnut Street Theater in Philly, and we were doing Music Man, which is a pretty like normal, like you see it all the time musical, and they wanted to make the mayor, who's like the the centerpiece of the story. They wanted that to be looked at the artistic director, and so they wanted us to make a statue of him to put in the middle of the stage, and so we had to cast his face.
Oh my goodness!
And this is a very mustached man.
Yeah.
We had to put like the right kind of stuff on it to make the release to get off of it. We got to cast his face though, make like a life-size statue of him out of like a mannequin and like different clothing that we would starch really heavily and paint.
Wow, that is so cool.
So that was like that is one of my favorite props,
really?
I think. Yeah.
I always find that fascinating. You know how if you're scrolling through like Instagram or whatever, you'll see like makeup artists who like,
oh my gosh,
transform themselves into whatever. And I just always found that fascinating. Like, how do you, and like you said, like building props to make it look realistic. Like, how do you do that? And so that brings me to your profile photo, which, you're holding a drill. I was like, oh, I have to invite her.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, I need to learn how to use the drill. But yeah, so you do a lot. Do you do like carpentry? I mean, you must, right?
Absolutely. So a part of it really is, it's not just like arts and crafts. It is like learning how to be a woodworker for the most part too. It's why I went to grad school at the end of the day. Like, I was loving props, but it is like very iterative. It's not like a linear learning way to do it. Like, it very much is trial and error of like, you're going to build the same prop 3 times and maybe the 4th time it's right thing.
Yeah.
And so in technical direction, I got to learn like structural analysis and correct rigging and electronics and things like that were not only industry standard, but the safe practice of how to do everything. And so it's really like, that's a real passion of mine, is to make sure that like we're teaching our young people going into the field not only like how to do this stuff, but how to do it correctly and safely. Because there's an old badge of honor with some carpenters that like, oh, I lost this finger this year. And it's like, no,
that's not good.
We don't want that to happen at all. So how to use them correctly, making sure you're never working alone. Like, and these are just practices for everyone, I think, not even in carpentry, but yeah, my picture, I had a friend do my headshots for me, and I had a couple different ones, just like regular. And we thought like, a personality headshot is kind of,
I love it.
It's eye-catching. It's different.
It is, yeah.
I think it gives you a look into my personality, maybe. So, yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I was like, as soon as I saw it, and I don't remember if I must have seen it like in the new staff
Probably
newsletter. And I'm like, oh, that is so cool.
Thank you.
And it does. It speaks to your personality. And like, to me, it just immediately makes me think, oh, she loves what she's doing. Like she loves building something. I know you build something,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So that is so cool.
Thank you.
What like as an undergrad, was there a particular experience that sort of like you said, you want to help younger folks who are going into the same field to do it safely and also, on the business side too, not just the actual prop building, but, creating contracts and making sure they get paid and I'm sure being paid fairly and all of these things, which is interesting. I know my question is going on and on, but
that's okay.
But, all of these majors that you had prior must feed into how you approach your work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the like a standout moment for me really was my apprenticeship. As much as I learned in it, I also it was and this is probably going to take a weird turn, but it was a pretty verbally abusive
really?
setup. Yeah, it was an advisor who was incredibly like set on that this was like life and death, like and that's putting it pretty harshly, but that is how it felt as a very young person, right? Yeah. And it was, they masked it all under an educational stipend you would receive every month, and it was incredibly. We were living in Philadelphia in the smallest apartment imaginable, like. Making no money. I used to joke that it was a good week if I didn't cry that week, right? Yeah. And so after that experience, thinking that this is what I wanted to do, right? Like I just took all this time in undergrad, changed my major this many times, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm miserable. And I love what I do, but the industry is just pushing me down. I felt like that was my point of really being trying to advise as many young people as I could of how there are companies out there that want to pay you correctly. Like there are people that are paying over minimum wage for the skilled work. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like you don't just you don't just know how to use a drill. Right. You don't know how to just use a circular saw immediately. Like that you need to know. You have to have some training. You have to know that safety for it. What personal protective equipment you're going to be wearing. And so I think that's why I keep going to educational institutions, is because I want to be that person that these people know that not only can I be there to help them physically keep safe, but that I can be a mental health safe place as well. That's awesome. a big that is like the driving reason why I'm here, and like why I think my team is so I know that they're so supportive of all of this. It's all of our first priority is to keep these students mentally and physically safe in whatever way that means.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'm curious if did you find that was it a predominantly male field, or are there
100%. Yeah, it definitely is difficult. I mean, that's the thing is like when I was in Philadelphia, it's the first time I was working with union stagehands, and for the most part, there wasn't a woman in sight.
Really,
they're all male identifying, and that's fine because that is how it was. And I felt very lucky that many of them were very protective, that were very, wanting to show me the correct way of doing things, not a gross way, not belittling me or, saying anything inappropriate. Right. But you did have those people that were incredibly inappropriate and very misogynistic. And, at one point, I remember every day I'd come in for this one load-in of a show, and these guys would be like, oh, like, I'll carry that ladder for you, sweetie. And it was like, at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Fine. You can do all of this hard work for me. Yeah. And I told them that at the end, like, I'm using you to do this now because you keep being so rude to me.
Yeah.
And it like in all of the other stagehands that were like supportive of me were laughing. They're egging them on, like giving them more things to do because they're being rude. It was like, you know what? Like that's what you get. So it's nice to have like you do have supportive people, but it's an incredibly male dominated field, and it has been for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
My advisor at UConn, like wasn't his mission to get more diversity into into specifically technical direction, but he felt so proud. The first year, it was me and Kimberly Keenan. We both were in the same cohort together at UConn. We both came in, and it was his first 2 females graduating, like in the correct amount of time. Like we didn't take longer either. And he was just so it's amazing to have those people around you and surrounding you. Like I feel really lucky about some of the advisors I've had and continue to have in my life, because they're why I am able to continue to do that.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
What was it like? I love that you mentioned that, actually, just to go back to that, because like you said, when you were dealing with a difficult time in Philadelphia, like that you might have changed your mind, like, okay, let me go into something else, when you were feeling discouraged.
100%.
And having people like that is so important, even beyond college, right? It's
absolutely.
like, just to keep fueling that that desire to continue. So I'm wondering, what was tell me, what was the first prop that you made?
Ooh, that's a good question. I can't. It was for She Stoops to Conquer, I'm pretty sure, at Oneonta. It may have been like fake books, I think, is the first thing that I'm coming to my brain. We used like that blue or pink foam that you find at Home Depot, you put in your walls. We cut those up into book shapes and covered it in this fabric called muslin. You'd like dip it in some like a white glue and water mixture, and you put it over it, and it kind of gives it that shape, and it makes it look like a leather-bound book.
Oh my gosh.
Then you just paint it. You can put different like inscriptions on a different gold leaf and stuff, and
so cool.
You can have like just rows of books like this, like but they're all fake and lightweight too. So
you can move them around.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so cool. See, I want to follow you around one day just to see what you make.
It's fun.
Yeah. So what? Like, were there some really super challenging props, or maybe just challenges that you had as props master that you experienced?
Absolutely. I think every prop like that has an effect is always a challenge. I was actually just talking with Jen McClure, who's one of the props folks here at Yale. She wrote a book about stage blood, and I used that for my thesis actually a couple of years ago.
Oh, interesting.
We were doing Evil Dead the musical, and unfortunately the pandemic shut it down, so we weren't able to do the full production. But I still did some like theoreticals on how to do like the talking moose head, or like this trap door that like a beaver is going to come out of, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of blood. If you've ever seen the Evil Dead movies, it is hilarious gore.
Right.
Is how I would put it. But I'm allergic to stage blood.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have an allergy to red dye. And so it's always been difficult for me to do any prop thing with blood. And of course, like I'm always doing something with blood. So it's like Hamlet. I remember we were doing like fake, we call them squibs essentially, but it's like this one was a hand one. So it was like a little Ziploc bag full of blood essentially that they would be able to pop themselves and smear it however they needed to. And I remember the actor just squeezed it really hard, and it just went all over me. My costume manager and the stage manager were just like ripping my clothes off to try to get it off me, and the cast is like, what is happening? Like, it's things like that. Like Oklahoma, at the end, like Curly or Judd shoots Curly. Opposite, and it's just like the blood splatter everywhere.
Really?
So at that point, it's 2015, and I have like a full hazmat suit on because
just to make sure.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my whole thesis project was about which manufactured stage bloods don't affect like my skin personally, and then if they stain clothes or if they stain like sealants for our paint treatments and stuff. So it was all about which manufactured bloods you can buy and which recipe blood. So like there's a bunch of
on your own.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of them use like corn syrup, which isn't the best, but it's an edible one.
Okay,
there's a glycerin one you can do. There's like a chocolate syrup, a peanut butter one, you know.
My God.
So
really,
yeah, there's a bunch of different recipes.
I can't imagine. That's so interesting. So you must or maybe I don't know if you do this, but when you watch movies or shows, you must like look for all of these ideas and how did they do XYZ, or because I always find it fascinating. Like I'm a big for the people don't know this, but I'm a big Walking Dead fan.
Amazing.
And I always like watching the behind the scenes, you know, the costumes.
Absolutely.
And how they, you know. So if have you ever is there like a certain favorite like that you have that you've just watched and, you know, wish like, oh, I would love to work on that project?
Oh, I mean, there definitely is. I'm just trying to think of them now because there's so many amazing shows that like get to do all of that. I know that like I was really like one of my role models in the prop world, his name is Jay Duckworth. He did the props for Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
But his like that, the thing, this prop is what it really inspires me, is that it's not something I've ever done. He did it for an outdoor show of like, I think it was like King Lear or King Richard, I'm not sure. And the actor needed to eat a steak on stage. Oh. And it's like outdoor theater. That's really cumbersome for an actor.
Yeah.
So they took a watermelon and cut it to look like a steak. They put this like caramel food coloring over it to give it that like sear look.
Yeah.
And then when you cut it on the inside, it looked like a rare steak.
Oh my God.
And it was hydrating. The actor could eat it really fast.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of stuff when I see that, I'm like so blown away.
Yeah.
Like I love food props.
That is so cool.
Isn't it just amazing?
I wouldn't even think, and that's what I always find amazing. Like, how do you even think these things up?
Right.
You know, like I said, when I, excuse me, I've seen like photographers do that with
with the magazines and ads. Yeah, it's so
and
cool.
And it turns out that it's not even the real food.
Right. It's not ice cream, it's mashed potatoes. yeah, absolutely.
Like, who would think that up?
Yeah.
That is so cool. So what, if you could talk about some of your experience at Bard College, were there certain highlights from that time too?
Definitely. That is, so Bard College is when I got to do that Oklahoma production. Okay. And that went to Circle in the Square. It won a Tony.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was that. Congrats. That is definitely like my highlight.
Yeah,
and I feel incredibly lucky that I was given that slot and I was able to do that. I got to work with some amazing people that still actually like led me to interactions and networking here.
Yeah.
The choreographer is John Higginbotham. He knows all of these dance folks I work with now at Yale. Like has worked with them before. So that's been really cool. Yeah. That was probably like absolutely one of my highlights of my career.
Really?
It just was so different and just so exciting to see the potential. Like it had started in 2007, I believe there, and then we did another iteration of it in 2015, and then it went on from there.
Nice.
So that was really cool. And I got a lot of amazing opportunities there of people that I got to meet and network with, people I'm still in touch with today.
Yeah.
You know, my first technical director at the Fisher Center, he works for Upstate Scenic, who we just ordered scenery for this last Yale Baroque opera project.
Oh, yeah.
And so he emailed me and was like, I'm not working on this project, but I saw your name and I'm so excited for you. Like,
that's so amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is so cool. So what kind of led to you wanting to be an adjunct professor?
Just continuing teaching really is like I got to do so much of it as just like a grad student and as a props manager and all that cool stuff. But getting to actually teach it and showing the students like, yeah, this is the industry standard. This is best practices. This is a safe way to do it. And then like, here's an opportunity for you to kind of get to build the course you want to build. Like I remember for stagecraft at UConn, that was one of my favorite projects. Was the first one I'd do them is it's called a push stick, and essentially it's a piece of wood that pushes additional lumber through a table saw so that your hands don't get caught in between the guide and the blade. And if you go to any scene shop, you'll have like pretty regular ones with just like a little notch out to push it through. But then sometimes you see really funky ones. They're fish or they're sharks or they're dinosaurs. And so their first project is to design a push stick Like looking at wood, if they're using plywood, what kind of like where the grain is going in the wood. And so one grain is going to be stronger if it's cut one way than the other. They get to use multiple tools for this project. So maybe they get to use a bandsaw, a jigsaw, sander, table saw. Like they get to use all these things to build this.
That's amazing.
And they get to use their creativity, which is not something that like typical carpenters in this industry get to do.
Yeah.
Like usually it is like building a 4 foot by 8 foot wall or a platform or, you know what I mean? It's like very like robotic in that way. So this is like bringing art into this space for like carpenters, which I think is fun.
That is fun.
And it gives them some agency of like the project. Like they can put as much time and effort as they want into it and be proud of something. And it's not just a paper. And I think the other reason I've really like adjuncting is that I'm able to hold space for these students in a way that some professors can't or won't. You know, when I'm teaching, my name is Aubrey. Like, do not call me professor unless you want to, but like that's not who I am. Like, I'm not Mrs. whatever. Like, it's just Aubrey, and I'm here to make sure that like not only are you learning what the college needs you to learn, but I'm here to help you learn what you want to learn if you want to go into this industry. Or like I had it was a requirement at UConn to take this class. So either even if you didn't want to be a carpenter, if you were a director, if you were a set designer, you still had to take this class. And so it was really cool to kind of teach them, like, even though you might not want to build scenery, like you might be going into lighting and you need to learn how to, put this thing together with these tools. Like this is still something very applicable for you. So we can make it work for you in whatever way. And in my experience, I just haven't always had those kind of professors. I've had a lot of them who have, that's why I'm here now. But there's always the few that
don't.
And they kind of, unfortunately, like it really can be sad to see these students go through these classes who were so excited about it, and now they're just kind of beaten down by the system.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh. So do you make a lot of stuff just to use at home? Do you really?
See,
I don't know, we got to hang out or something.
Absolutely, come on over. We're in the process of still making our garage into like a fully workable workshop. We just have too many things, but like I'm very lucky my partner is like so about making stuff and like doing it ourselves. Like he's been making cutting boards and they're beautiful. But we also have chickens. We raise chickens, and so like building our coop in the backyard and like getting the garden ready and all the house projects we have. I know like this summer I plan on like I have to like hang a bedroom door and like make a closet. And,
that's so cool. See, I'm intimidated by saws and drills. You'll laugh. So I have a funny story because it's almost embarrassing.
No,
because my son and I tried to hang. I bought these. Not fancy, but I bought these towel racks, and we were like, how the heck do you get the fitting?
It's weird, right?
And so we gave up. We were like, I'll just find someone who knows what they're doing.
No, the thing is, I tell my students this all the time because I have so many students coming in and they're like, this is scary. They understand the responsibility, which is the first step of like understanding how like this thing could hurt you.
Right.
100%. So respecting the tool is always what we say first. But then at the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's about being confident in yourself that you did the training, you listened, you tried it, you've worn all the things you're supposed to wear, and you own it now. Like you can do this thing.
Oh man,
that's what I try to instill. Come on over. We'll have our own class. We can do this.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Oh, that would be so cool because, I always used to like years ago. You know how they do the little workshops at Home Depot.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that looks so easy. But then when I go home, it's not the same.
Maybe this is something we should start because I always say that like in high school, they teach you like statistics and all this stuff. And some people need to know how to do that. But at the end of the day, some people just need to know how to use a drill to hang some pictures on their wall.
Stuff.
Absolutely.
Because I'm always like, oh, that's probably a simple project. But, I understand. You start getting tools out, But, that actually would be so cool because I'm sure there are lots of, I was about to say women, but I'm sure there are lots of people
a lot of people
just in general who are, it's intimidating, right? And like you said, respecting the tools and knowing how they work and what they're for and that kind of thing. And I totally would sign up if
I think that would be great. I mean, that's the thing is like, it is just people. I think when I was even in high school and like, I remember being in a shop class and I remember using the bandsaw, using a chop saw when I was 13.
That's amazing.
I don't think they do that anymore.
If they do, I haven't really heard of it recently unless you go to a specific, there are a few high schools in the area that do like a trade, some sort of trade. So they have like electrical and, all sorts of stuff. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they still, at least a few do carpentry.
Yeah, I would hope so. It's a good life tool.
It is.
Just
it really
the basics.
Yeah.
You don't need to know how to use a planer. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to know that, but just feeling confident with a drill in your hand.
Right. So I can do my home projects.
Absolutely.
So I can hang my towel.
I hear ya.
Because that's why I'm like, oh God, I'm going to put a giant hole. That's what I'm afraid of. I'll put a giant hole in the wall.
Joint compound can fix all these sins. So
that's awesome. See, we gotta
we could
hang
do
out.
this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So what, I mean, I feel like this question I already know the answer to, but what aspects of teaching stagecraft do you find the most rewarding? I know it's, getting people over the fear and using creativity. Are there other reasons that it just seems like I can tell like you're so excited about it and people must love taking your class because you just have that excitement and enthusiasm and it must be so fun.
It's very fun. I think I feel very lucky to still be in touch with some of my students. Actually, I have two students in particular who are graduating in just a couple days from the University of Connecticut.
Oh, nice.
And they've been in my class since their freshman year, and it's very amazing to see how far especially one of them, Isabella. Yeah. She was so nervous. I remember the first time we were doing the push stick project. We're in the scene shop, and she decided that she's going to do a caterpillar as her push stick. She's cutting it out and everything. It's taking a little longer than she wants it to, and she's getting a little frustrated. And I'm like, but you did this. Yeah. Like this morning you were afraid to even touch this tool, and now you've cut it all out. And then to see them where they are now with these portfolios that are just to die for. Really? The craftsmanship, the detail work, and the confidence. That's really what it is. Is like, I was helping with a class at Wesleyan as well, and they were doing these little, we call them flats. Essentially, they're walls for theater. And they had to cut it all out. They had to design it, paint it, whatever they wanted to. And some of them, when they were done with it, they were looking at it and they're like, I can't believe I made that. And it was like, you so did cool. though. Yeah. Like you trusted yourself. Right. You like were confident in all of the training that you had, and you made this thing, and that you were capable of so much more. And that's what it is for me, is like to get them engaged at first and just like hold on to it and like keep that going. Yeah. It's empowering. Right. And that's what I want to like instill in them, is that like they have like, no matter what they're going into, especially like, so I think the students here at Yale, I've only been here since January, but I've noticed, and maybe it's this generation, but they're like bioengineer majors and then also with the minor in music. Yeah, and you're like, what?
like the artsy side. Yeah.
Right, and that's amazing. That's awesome, but like to know that they can take any of the skills and translate that into their careers, into their lives. Yeah. You know, even I tell them all the time, like, you're going to own your first house or apartment and you're going to want to make it your own. Like this is giving you that agency to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, see, we're gonna be friends.
Absolutely,
you're my new BFF. So I'm curious, moving into like the college years and then into currently. So how did you? I know you mentioned that you knew a few folks who knew folks here at Yale, but how did you transition to working at Yale?
Yeah, so I what I've been learning, and this is the thing, is that as much as I love making, I can't make the changes I want to see in the industry in those positions. Unfortunately, it kind of goes back to me, and I don't want to say it's because I'm a woman. I think it's these positions. I loved being the shop foreman at Wesleyan. It was awesome. I loved teaching students carpentry and props and everything. But because you're just a carpenter, you're not a professor, you're not a dean, you're not whatever it is. It's only recommendations, and no one takes it as real, a real like obligation almost. And it's frustrating,
Right.
especially when you're the one working with the students. Like you're on the ground doing the work with them, and you're seeing them frustrated, and you're seeing them upset, and you're seeing them pay for an education and not getting what they want out of it.
Yes.
And so that mixed with, I also have rheumatoid arthritis. And so unfortunately, that has gotten to a point that I physically can't do the work I love doing on a daily basis.
Really?
My hands they crunch up really hard. They'll stay like that for an hour or two. And it's just not conducive to a healthy work flow for me.
Yeah.
And so all of that together led me to knowing that I have to keep moving in this, in this kind of institution to make the changes I see. When I saw the position open up here at Yale, it was an amazing opportunity to do just that.
Really?
Undergraduate production, which is the department I'm housed in, that's our job, is to keep the students safe.
Nice.
To show them what they need to do correctly, to give them the resources that they need to do the shows or events that they want to do, to give them the guidance, to give them the policies, to make sure that they feel supported.
Yeah.
And when I saw that and talked with my folks here and my team now, I just felt seen. I felt like we have a real chance to make these changes that I've been so wanting to see elsewhere.
That's amazing.
And now I have a small stepping stone to continue that work that I want to continue to do.
Oh, that's so amazing. I love that. How has it been? Because you mentioned that you've been here since January. So I can only imagine, anyone who comes into Yale, and of course there's like the Yale ecosystem of just everything,
Absolutely.
right? And then just learning what's what and finding your way around. So how's that been? Like just navigating all of that?
It's been a whirlwind.
Yeah.
It's definitely been rewarding, but I am very excited to have a couple months to take a breath.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. Part of my job is I'm the operations and production manager for the Yale Dance Lab and for the Yale Baroque Opera Project. And so the dance lab, they had a performance right in February.
Oh, so you just
had to start right away.
Right.
Great. That's the thing is like, I've never felt more supported here.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there is so much to learn. And that's, I think, any institution, but especially a place that has just so much history.
Right.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot, but it's been great. I'm not scared off. I'm still here ready to do the work.
Yeah.
But like the Yale Dance Lab went off beautifully in February. So happy to have gotten to do that. And then the Yale Baroque Opera Project just closed on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And so again, like just a lot to learn, taking notes for next year, but ready to continue because I know that like I've had good feedback so far. Ready to continue to do the work though. Make awesome. It more streamlined as we can. So
right. So can you tell us a little more about the dance lab?
Absolutely.
And the Baroque project.
Yeah. So the dance lab is it's the two artist directors is Emily Coates and Lacina Colbali, and they've been doing this for I believe it's 14 years now. And essentially it's an opportunity for Yale students of any major background to come and dance together.
Oh, wow.
They either bring like guest artists in or they choreograph it themselves. This last year we just did a performance with Brenda Guha where the students were taught different cultural Indian dances.
Oh, wow.
They got to do improv movements and really bring the audience into Brenda's choreography process, but about the dance specific. She did this whole beautiful lecture about the history, how she learned, how her mother was her teacher. Her mother was in the audience for one of the performances.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
really taught the audience why they were doing the specific movements they were doing and how it culminated into this beautiful piece together. It was stunning. And they're trying to do that every year of like, what haven't we done yet? And what can we do to bring more students in and welcome more students into this process? So it's a very cool project. I'm really excited for next year. I don't think I'm allowed to say what we're planning on for next year,
Keep
but
it as a surprise.
But I think from the feedback we've gotten from the students, they should be very excited about this.
That's so amazing.
And then the Yale Baroque Opera Project has, I think it's been about 15 years maybe. The artistic director is Grant Herod in the music department. This year's, I think Tony Dorfman's been the director for the last few years with artistic director Ellen Rosand. And this year we just did Dido and Aeneas. So the cool thing that is you don't get to do Baroque opera. I was chatting with some of my friends who do opera and they were like, you don't see these shows anymore. Like no one is doing them. And so it's an opportunity for, again, some of these are music students, but some of them are going to be a hedge fund manager in Miami after they graduate, right?
Right.
And so you're getting to bring these students together to do these operas that you don't ever get to hear or see. Working with professional designers with a good budget and getting them to experience these stunning operas with like a fully supported orchestra, a full set with lighting, projections, team behind them. And it was absolutely beautiful. I've never heard students sound more beautiful.
Oh, man.
So it was a very rewarding process, and we just loaded out yesterday. I have a fake boar's head in my car to bring somewhere, and you know, so.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, are these things like? Do you ever have staff, whether Yale or Yale College staff, come to these events?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really?
I tried to get as many people as possible.
Really?
Yeah. All of the events are free, which is the biggest thing. And it is like my dean, Kate Cryer, it's her mission really to make arts accessible to the community. And so I'm so proud that these productions get to be for free.
That's amazing.
All we require is a reservation to make sure we know you're coming, but it's great. It's a great opportunity for everyone to come and see what these students are up to, what they're really putting their creative the work into. And so, but it's great. It's accessible to so many people, not even just in Yale College staff, but to the community of New Haven.
That is so amazing. I definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you the dates for next year.
Yes, please do. Because sometimes I feel guilty. There's so many things.
There's so much
here, that you could take part in at Yale and it's almost overwhelming because every day, you could experience something different every single day.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
like you said, these amazing performances. So yeah, please send it to me.
I will.
Wow, this is so cool. So I'm wondering, in terms of your work now, here at undergraduate production, have there, you've shared already, but I'm curious about any other just interesting experiences that you've had over the last several months, things that just really made you know, like, this is what I enjoy doing and why I want to be here.
Absolutely.
So,
I think for me, knowing the clear policies and like procedures of how we want to keep the students safe and keep them knowing all of the resources they have available is just probably my favorite thing.
Really?
It's not something that I found at other institutions that have been so it's so clearly laid out.
Really?
Like there can be no miscommunication about what we can do and what we can't do, and it really is all from a safety standpoint, right? Like making sure that after 4 feet of height that there is railings on all sides to keep the students from falling, because if you fell from 4 feet, that's pretty it could be disastrous.
Right.
And that is not something that I've ever encountered before. And it's like, of course, like that's what OSHA tells us that we need to do, right? We need to have railings as they go up the stairs. Like these are just very clear things that I feel like I've been fighting for a long time to have like artistic people understand what it means to be able to deliver this aesthetically pleasing design while keeping the actors on stage safe.
Yeah.
And to keep the production folks safe too, as they're building it, as they're walking around it, as we're hanging lights and everything like that. It's all about like keeping the team safe.
Yeah.
And I think having everything prefaced like that, having, my team is very supportive of getting as much training done as possible. We just did like a mental health first aid training to make sure that like we know that what we can and can't do with students, or even ourselves as a team, how we can support each other.
Yeah.
It's all of that kind of together. And so that support that I've gotten in all aspects has been the most rewarding part of this job, knowing that if I had a concern about anything like that, it wouldn't be brushed under the rug. Yeah. It would be looked at as an absolute action item.
That's amazing. Yeah. Feeling supported in like you said, communicating that message of safety, which is key, right? Because I always bring up with my guests, it's like, so you're influencing students to follow all of these. I like to look at it as like you said, OSHA, and all these regulations to make sure that you're building a beautiful prop, but that it's safe for everyone, because you don't want to be sued later, for someone being getting injured on set and things like that. And to imagine that, you're instilling this in students who will later on instill it. They'll continue this and instill it in others, which is amazing. So what, wow, this is so cool. I have so many, interest, and of course I love hearing about the prop stuff because I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
But, how about in terms of, collaboration, like with, with your colleagues and students, or maybe, I don't know if you deal directly with, directors and designers and things like that. So how do you approach collaborating with all of these different folks and different types of roles that they play in this whole thing?
It's tricky. Yeah. It's definitely a ballet, right? Really? It's making sure everyone feels seen and feels heard, and knowing that their opinions and designs are stunning. They are, but we have to make sure that all of the design aspects can be shown as bright together. So how to make sure that, the lighting is at the right level so that we can actually see the actors and the costumes and the set, right? How to make sure that like it's not so overwhelming with the projection design that we're not paying attention to the actors or whatever it is, right? And so it really is, I think it's making sure that your folks that you're working with feel like we are a team. It's not me against them. It's not them pinning against each other. It's that we have to work together to make this show happen. Yeah. And part of the thing that I'm working on, and it is like my goal, is to make sure that everyone understands that we have this immense privilege to get to entertain people for a living.
Wow.
It's an absolute privilege. Yeah. We get to do this, and we get paid to do it.
Right.
And I need them to know that while we will execute this design impeccably, that we're not curing cancer.
Yeah.
We have to kind of keep that to a minimum. While we can take so much pride in our work and we can be so proud of what we've done, we have to make sure that it's not at the risk of safety. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I try to phrase it to my team, is that like, this might be very important to you, and I hear you that it's important, but we have to make sure right now this design looks like it's going to take us a full 12 to 14 hour day to do that. If we do that for a week straight, we will all be burnt out. Yeah. How do we reduce this so that we can all have a 8-hour workday, something that is manageable on all of our ends, so that we're not upset at the end of the process. We're not exhausted.
Right.
And that's something I'm still learning how to do, as I just came off of working a lot of 14-hour days.
Exactly.
I'm very good at preaching it. I'm not very good at taking my own advice. But I think because I would rather be the one that's exhausted so that my team can feel okay, so that they can be ready to keep doing that. And I need to manage that myself.
Yeah.
We're working on that.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. And you said something interesting. Like you said, you're not curing cancer, but I like to look at the arts as all of these things that contribute to a performance, or music, or all of these things. It's like, maybe you're not by in a medical way, but
Oh,
mentally,
the enrichment that we are
yeah,
providing,
yeah.
100%.
I mean, the impact you have on people who enjoy these performances,
To
and
take their mind off of
exactly
what are the things that are driving their
right,
absolutely. It's a balance, right? It's
yeah,
such a balance of us knowing that we can't treat it like that, but
hmm,
again, the privilege that
right,
we
yeah,
get to do this for people.
yeah,
It is like a funny dance. It's a
right,
ballet. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And so, how much of this, spills over into, when you go home at the end of the day?
I try not to
Really?
have it be, I'm very lucky that my
Mhm,
partner is as calm as
mhm,
as I need him to be. We always joke that my personality is
mhm.
I can be at negative 500 to
Yeah,
positive 1,000. Like
yeah,
my
yeah.
emotions and my excitement can
Uh-huh.
just explode.
Right.
And he's always between a 4 and a
Really?
6, right? Like he's so steady, nothing
Yeah,
really bothers him.
yeah.
He's like, "What are you going to do?"
Uh-huh.
And so it's a nice balance of
Yeah.
him in my life to
Uh-huh.
ground me
Yes,
when I
yes.
need it. But at the same time, I wouldn't get to do my house projects or anything like that if
Yeah.
I wasn't in this industry,
Yeah, yeah.
and I get to recommend shows and events for my friends and
Right,
get
right.
them, comp tickets if I can,
Yeah.
or just put them on the list if it's already free.
Yeah, that's
So
so cool.
that is the cool part of the job,
Yeah.
but it is important to I think for any job, right? It's
Yeah.
what is work is
Mhm.
who we are. We're at work. What is it? Over
Yeah.
60% of our livelihood is at
Right.
work. And so it's
Yeah.
so important to enjoy
It
it.
is. It really
But at
is.
the end of the day, it's hard if something is work bothersome
Right,
to
right.
not bring that home.
Yes.
That's difficult.
It is difficult. Yeah. And it's funny because as I've interviewed multiple guests, everyone truly, it may people may find it surprising, or think like, oh, it's got to be something,
Right.
when you talk about, yeah, no, I really do love my job. I love working here. I feel fortunate, right? And it's like, to do what you love doing
Right.
is amazing. And like you said, it's like in your case, it's um so cool that you get paid to make people happy, and do,
Absolutely.
do all of these things to put on these performances. And um yeah, it's like, where else can you do that? I don't know. I haven't, I've been at Yale for, gosh, I almost lost track for a minute. I've been at Yale. This will be my 17th year.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank
That's
you. Thank
amazing.
you. And it's like, yeah, that's what keeps me coming back, right?
Right.
It's, you have to love what you do. Um so I'm curious, like, are there, since you've been in this field for quite some time, are there common misconceptions that people have about
Oh, are
about what you do?
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is when you say you work in theater,
Yeah, yeah.
it is that is the cool thing, right?
Mhm.
Is that they just see this magic happening on
Mhm. Mhm.
stage. They don't see how heavy that projector was that we just
Yeah.
lugged up to the balcony because there's no elevators in the
Oh my
building.
gosh.
They didn't see the 3 truckloads
Mhm.
of rental equipment that we just had to put down, or
Yeah.
or that working until 10 o'clock at night
Yeah,
because you had to
yeah.
get the set
The long
safe
hours.
before the actors get on, right?
Right.
And I'm glad. I don't want that's not the point. The
Yeah,
audience
yeah.
shouldn't see that. And they should
Yeah.
just see this magical set
Right.
appear with these beautiful twinkling
Mhm.
lights. And it is they're transported. They
Yeah.
can, like you said, just forget all of what's happening in
Right.
reality
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just enjoy this for 2
Yep.
hours or whatever it is.
Right.
But I think, when I say I build sets for a living
Mhm.
or I'm a carpenter,
Mhm.
especially for me,
Mhm.
I am a 5'2" loud
Yeah.
little girl. And they're like, you don't know how to do that. And it's
Oh, geez.
I hate going to Home Depot.
Really? Oh,
It is
yeah.
it is my least favorite thing. Like the other day I had to be like,
they assume.
Oh my gosh, they just, and so I try to like look so disarming. I have like my work pants on, I have like a baseball hat, and I'm looking at the ground like, and then they still come up to you and they're like, oh, do you need help like with this plumbing area? And you're like, I'm gonna be using this for a weird prop. That like, I don't have to like I think that like I was buying like tubing in the the plumbing department once. He was like, oh, what project are you working on? And I was like, you don't
want to know. Yeah.
And he was like, no, like I'm an experienced and I was like, listen, I'm going to use this tube to have it look like someone threw up on a couch. Like I don't, it's not what you think. It's not going to be throw up. It's going to be like weird pudding. Like, like, and so to like explain to them what you're doing also is like not embarrassing, but like, I'm going to weird you out. And just like let it happen.
That's funny.
So, those are the misconceptions, I think, a little bit, specifically with like us. But I'm glad that they think fairies come out and just sprinkle glitter on everything and it's done. It's all done, right? I'm glad if the audience can feel that way because they don't need to know the hardships of it.
If you make it look easy, that means it's like...
Then we're doing it right, I guess, right? I don't know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When it comes to like... the pressure and just tight deadlines, like you said, mentoring students in a way where, because I'm sure maybe they experience disappointment when they have this elaborate idea and you're trying to get them to scale back a little bit. So how do you handle that sort of pressure? How do you help them handle the pressure and the tight deadlines?
It's a balance, but at the end of the day, what I try to teach them is that it's a learning lesson. Like this is why you're in school. You get this amazing safety net right now of like, it's not your fault. Like you get to, like, I encourage you to make mistakes, fail epically. Because you will learn so much more from that than if you do it right the first time every time. Absolutely. How boring is that? Exactly. Like, so I encourage them like, okay, you didn't make the deadline this time. No problem. Like you're going to make it next time because you've learned how to do time management better this time. And so you had to scale it back. Like, this is still a learning process. Like this beautiful art project, while it is in your soul so important to you, and I want it to be so important to you, you can't lose sleep over it. And I am preaching to the choir right now because I have only lost sleep for the last 2 weeks. Really? Last night was the first night I had a good night's sleep because I put so much pressure on myself. But I don't want them to feel that way. I don't want them to see that on me either. So that is hard to like be this role model and a teacher to them and try to instill that it's okay to fail. And because it can go on me and that's okay. Like I will take the blame. I will take the fault. Like it was my fault. Aubrey said no. That's fine. But I saved you from working too long on too many hours without sleeping and then you're going to try to use a tool on no sleep.
Which is a little scary. It can be safety issue.
So I'd much rather tell them that and if no one wants to hear that, no one wants to hear it's okay to fail. They're like, no, I'm not going to do that. But it's important.
It's so true. It's important because you're right. That's when you learn the most, when you have to turn around and fix it. Either fix it or not do it again. And how do I avoid, falling into this, trap or obstacle or, so that's so cool. So as you know that we're already wrapping up our time here, but, let's see. So I had a few more questions for you. Looking back on your journey, when you think of your younger self, at the time when you were sort of you were exploring, which is encouraged here at Yale, like explore all sorts of different fields and things to figure out what you really love doing. But what would what advice would you give your younger self when you think of back then when you were sort of hopping around doing different, going into different majors? What advice would you give yourself?
I think it would be to have more fun, to not sweat the small stuff and just like I just said, like enjoy the failure. Like it's going to make you so much stronger and like, don't sweat it. It's okay. Like you are a child still at 17, 18 years old. Like someone told you to sign this document and pay all of this money and you're just hoping for the best. Like that was already the gamble. So just enjoy it now.
Oh, that's so cool. And what, I know that you shared with us what you want to instill in students and the next generation of theater professionals, but maybe what's one more sort of lesson that you'd love to pass on to your students?
I think it's to not take yourself so seriously.
Mm,
It's fun to have fun.
yeah.
And while this show you're working on, this project you're doing might seem like it's make it or break it for your career,
Hmm.
it's not. You're going to have so many more opportunities and you're going to be even better after this one.
Oh, awesome, awesome. And what, just in terms of prop making and theater production, is there a particular, uh, I know that we talked a lot about, um, your wish to instill, it's like that safety first kind of approach with everything that they do. But is there a particular legacy that you hope to sort of leave, here?
Oh, so existential.
Yeah, yeah.
I just, all I could hope for
Mhm.
is that we as an industry start paying
Mm.
professionals, no matter how young,
Mhm.
more than the minimum wage.
Mm,
That
mhm.
these unpaid internships masked as these amazing opportunities
Mhm.
are become illegal.
Yeah, yeah.
And that these young professionals who are trying to just live and make a
Mhm.
living
Mhm.
in this field
Yeah.
can do that
Yeah.
without burning themselves out
Right.
and having mental health crises. So
Right.
that really, if that's, and that's asking a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's how I would love to see the industry by the time I'm ready to retire.
Yeah. And and from the outside, since I'm not in this industry, I didn't realize that it happens frequently that,
Hmm.
like you said, these free internships, or what do they call it? Because I do photography on the
Oh
side, and I
yeah.
used to get these, hey, just so you can build your portfolio.
Exactly. This is a great opportunity for your
Yeah.
career,
Yes.
and
Yes.
we provide housing. It's like it is
Mm,
the worst housing
really.
that you're sharing with 15 other
Oh my gosh.
people in
Yeah.
this like 3-bedroom
Oh my
bunk beds,
gosh.
no air conditioning in the middle of summer.
No.
Right?
Okay.
So it's just
It
that's all
happens
I
a lot.
it's so many of these summer stock theaters do
Hmm.
this, and it is
It should be illegal.
exhaust
Like you said, it should be
I don't
illegal.
know how it's not
Yeah.
for many
Yeah.
of them, and they're able to disguise it as this amazing learning opportunity, but
Hmm.
you're just you're teaching unsafe practices
Mm,
is
hmm.
what you're doing. You're teaching these students that and these young people that it's okay to survive on 3 hours
Mm,
of sleep, a pack of cigarettes, and a Red
mm.
Bull. Like that's what
No.
they're
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah.
And because they have to survive, they have to do it because this show
Yeah.
is the most important show, and
Hmm.
it's unethical, and
Mm,
it's so sad to see these
yeah.
people still falling into these traps because
Right.
they want to make a name for themselves. They want to
Yeah.
prove themselves. They're hungry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
these people, these companies need to have the backing, and it needs to
Right.
be monetary.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what words of encouragement would you offer individuals who are just starting to pursue this field?
That it is most important to get 8 hours of sleep,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, and to be true to yourself,
Mm,
to not if your gut is saying that this is fishy, that this feels wrong, it is.
mm.
Trust your gut.
Trust
Your
your
gut is
gut.
always right.
Yeah. This is amazing. I could probably talk to you all day.
I could too.
I
This
know.
is great. I can't
It's
believe
just
it's
so
been over an
cool. I
hour.
know. It's crazy. So my last question would
Mhm.
be, for you, like what, I know you can't share what you're doing next year, for undergraduate production, but, Yeah, like what's next, or what'll continue fueling this passion you have for this field?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, my team is very supportive of us getting as much training as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and so some focus goals that I'll be working on next year is to get ETCP rigging certified,
And what
and
is
to learn
that?
more. So it's essentially an entertainment rigging practices. That's
Oh,
for
okay.
like
Yep.
if you were like the most simple way to put it is like the correct way to tie knots for theater, to hang
Okay. Like
scenery or whatever
lights
it
and
is.
okay.
But sometimes it's like it's aircraft cable, it's knowing the correct gauge of
Oh,
aircraft
wow.
cable, the
Yeah.
different tools that you need to be using, the different hardware that is like certified and not like
Mm-hmm.
chintzy,
Yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of stuff is to
Right.
make sure. And so I will hopefully be doing that next year. It's going to be a lot of math.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that's okay. So hopefully I'll be able to finish that next year.
Yep, yep.
And then hopefully to take a little bit more lighting classes.
Nice.
These are things that like I am a carpenter and a prop
Mhm.
person, and
Mhm.
I'm organized, but I don't know all of the aspects of
Mhm.
theater in a way that I can speak intelligently about.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I want to just further that
That
learning.
experience, yeah.
And then I think like any really is just continuing working with my peers to
Mhm.
keep the industry as safe as possible. And
Yeah.
I have that team to support me on that.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. And like I said, I could probably talk to you for another couple hours because
Absolutely.
I'm just fascinated by the field, and not that I want to get
Absolutely.
into it, but I but I find
I
it
hear
fascinating. Except
ya.
for tiling my kitchen, like
Oh my gosh, that's something I don't even want to
do
do.
it really.
Oh my God, we need to do that. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to.
I know I've been putting it off forever. Um, but yeah, it's just been a pleasure chatting with you today.
This has been a fantastic thing. It's been so
Oh,
great to meet you and get to chat with you
yeah.
today.
Thank you. Thank you. So just as we, bring this to a close, I'm just hoping that our listeners are just inspired by, your remarkable journey in theater production and prop making, and just through your experiences, just chatting with you today, I've gained some insights that I had no idea, about the creative process, and like you said, the importance of collaborating with your colleagues and your peers. Like the production wouldn't happen if you can't
Come
work
together.
together. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's like it's a life lesson, really. Like it just can't, you can't have this beautiful output without, learning how to work together.
Absolutely.
So, lastly, I just hope all of our listeners are just, encouraged by you, Aubrey, just to pursue your passions. And like you said, even, you know, some people would, think that there was something wrong with jumping from major to major, and there's nothing wrong with that, because
Absolutely.
it's you explored different areas, and those all of that exploration kind of um influences what you're doing now,
Yes.
and I think that's so cool. So again, I just hope our listeners are, inspired by your story. And I just thank you again for stopping by
Oh, thank
today.
you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
I don't know about inspiration, but I'll take if I could just help one person
Yes.
just figure out how to navigate the industry, then I did what I
Absolutely.
plan on doing. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you probably, you already have, and you'll definitely, when our listeners hear this, they'll definitely feel inspired. And like you said, picking up a power tool and hopefully, respect the tool.
absolutely, absolutely. I'll take it.
Yes, yes. We should have a staff workshop.
I'm gonna try to put this together. I think
Really?
I think it would be so
That would
much
be a
fun.
cool, like,
And
outing almost.
I think so too. I'm gonna mention it in our weekly meeting tomorrow. So
Sign me up.
yeah,
Sign me
you
up.
got
I
it.
want to learn. I'm always intimidated by saw, because, like you said, as you were describing, what is it called? The stick. What is it called?
A push stick.
A push stick.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm intimidated by saws, so I'm always just like, I'm not going anywhere near this thing.
I understand. No, I think this would be a really cool thing to have for
Yeah.
employees, because it is so important to just feel comfortable
Right.
and know like how to do it safely. That's really what it is. It's the
Yes.
confidence and knowing that you're safe.
And being safe,
Yeah.
and like, I mean, we could brainstorm later, but, like you said, a sort of collaboration, team building sort of thing,
I think that would be
would be so
amazing.
cool. So maybe,
I think we can do this.
yeah,
Absolutely.
let's plan it.
Yeah, you got it.
So Aubrey, thank you so much again. I mean, like I said, I saw your picture and I was just like, I have to get to know you because it just made me want to get to know you because it speaks a lot to your personality and your excitement and enthusiasm for this field. And it was just a pleasure chatting with you today.
Thank you so much. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And welcome to Yale. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been great.
Awesome. So again, for our listeners, just keep listening to our episodes and enjoying hearing the stories, the captivating stories of our staff here. I'm finding it fascinating just being able to talk to people like you and hear about your backgrounds and why you love what you do, and it's just so cool. So I hope I do the same for our listeners, and so we'll just end here.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.